Hey guys, Big Coach KSD here. And today's theme, I will be talking about coaching screw ups. I've been asked to talk about some of the ways in which I personally have screwed up as a coach or made mistakes. You can call it encountering challenges. I like to say just screwing up because that's totally cool and that's what happens. So I thought I would talk to you today about two significant mistakes that I made in my coaching career early on. And I've chosen these because I think that they are emblematic of some of the mistakes that we commonly make as coaches. So the first one, I have brought a little friend here to show you. It's a stapler. And I've brought this here to show you this because in the early days of my coaching, I would give people dietary advice or exercise advice or whatever that was like a booklet, like a stapled booklet, like multiple pages. I think one of them even had like 10 pages. Like I kind of cringe to even say it, but I think that one of them even had like 10 pages and just lists and lists and lists of here's what to do. Here's this, here's that. Oh, you want to make a dietary change? Great. You're going to have to eat more protein and you have to eat this and here's a list of foods and cut out that food and here's a list of carbs that are okay and blah blah. Like it kind of makes me barf just just to think about how wrong it was. And so I would hand these to clients and be like, here, do this. And of course, what do you think happened, right? They couldn't do it. And what would happen is also that they would take it on themselves. They would feel bad because they didn't do it. And they would feel like, oh, I suck. It's my fault. I screwed up. I can't do this. And they would just give up. So what did I learn from that? I learned that that's a terrible idea. I learned that it's almost never too simple. As simple as you can make it simpler because you can always add more. It's much harder to regress and go backwards. So once you've hit them in the face with the fire hose, it's a lot harder to go back and regain that trust. Whereas if you give them just a little thing and a little thing and a little thing, it's much easier to just add and add and add and add. And when you do that, clients feel empowered. They're like, yeah, I did that. That's pretty cool. I feel good about myself. So the second thing I did, a mistake that I made, was I assumed that people are like me. And what I mean by that is that I can handle a lot of information. I can handle like I'm pretty self-directed. So I think of myself as like the 90-10 coaching client, right? I can do 90% of the work on my own. I just need a 10% boost from a coach. Most people are not like that. Most people need much more assistance, much more guidance, much more structure. And they're much less self-directed than I was. And they may not have the expertise. So in the beginning, I kind of assumed that people were like me, that they were conscientious, that they would show up every day like I do, because I'm a very conscientious person, that they would have some level of structure in their lives that let them do that, and that once they committed to things that they would do them, and so on and so forth. So I took my mindset and my way of working and my habits, and I put those in my client's head and assumed that that would be true of all of them. And then when they weren't that way, I was kind of like secretly mad at them too. I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, how come you can't get it together, you know? So of course, what I discovered is, again, I'm the weirdo. I'm the weirdo. And whether it's that you're more organized, that you're more conscientious, that you have a certain level of knowledge about fitness and nutrition, we forget how much we know and we forget how much we can do, and that the simplest task to us can be incredibly difficult to somebody else. So if we say to them, oh, just get foods that have protein, well, to us, that's really easy. To someone else, that's potentially quite difficult. There may be all these different steps that they have to learn, all these different skills they have to learn. So I assumed people were like me. And what happened was I didn't monitor them as effectively as I could have. I was sort of like, nah, they'll do their thing. They'll come back. If they have questions, they'll ask me. And they didn't. And I remember one client in particular, I hadn't followed up with her in like a couple of months or something. And finally I did, and she let me have it. And she said, you know what? Yeah, I understand that I should have been checking in, but you didn't check to see if I was okay. You didn't monitor me. You didn't check in on me. You didn't ask if I was doing all right. And I was just like, I was so, ugh. I felt so embarrassed and so I mean, this one's on me, right? Like that's how I felt. I felt like I had made such a significant mistake. So what I took from that, first of all, is that client monitoring is a thing and that you need to be on top of them all the time. And I don't mean in an intrusive way, like you have to be up in their business all the time, but you should always be like spinning the plates, knowing where the ducklings are, to mix the metaphors. You should always know where things are at any one time and have a general sense of where your clients are at. And so even if you're not necessarily explicitly checking in, like, hey, how you doing? How's it going? You at least know where they are at, and you do not assume that they can do anything, that they can think anything, that they can feel anything. You always check and test. Another thing I learned from that is that you can always apologize and try to make it better. Now, you might not succeed. You might lose a client. The client might be like, no, you suck, I'm out of here. Lesson learned. But you can also often apologize and say, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. You own it. You wear it. You take responsibility for it. And you say, I'm sorry, and I'll try to do better. And it's something I learned in my counseling training too. You will put a foot wrong. Even if you're like the nicest person in the world, even if you mean well and you're really trying, you will hit something by mistake. You will put a foot wrong. You will screw up. It's only a matter of time. So when that happens, get your sorry saying skills happening, because it's okay to say sorry, to say, you know what, I took us in the wrong direction. I apologize for that. Can we start again? And most clients will be cool with that. So that's what I learned through pain. I hope that it's helpful for you. If you notice yourself scotch taping or stapling or paper clipping anything together, reconsider that. maybe like put it on a post-it note or something. All right, guys, I hope that's useful. Take care. Happy coaching.